The jukebox rattled old country blues through the dim, lit biker bar, the kind of place where smoke curled like restless ghosts and laughter hit the walls as hard as the pool cues. 5 women in black leather, known around those parts as the biker queens, had the back booth staked out like a throne. They weren't cruel, just rowdy. They tested every newcomer who dared walk in. Their rule was simple: if you wanted a drink in their place, you'd better prove yourself, usually with an arm wrestle, a dare, or some ridiculous challenge. That night, a stranger walked in. Not the kind of man you'd expect here. He wasn't polished, but he wasn't rough either. Just quiet, wearing a worn denim jacket with patches, looked older than the bar itself. His hands bore calusas that told stories, but his eyes, they carried something heavier. One of the queens, tall with a tattoo of wings across her collarbone, leaned forward with a grin. Well, fresh meat. Hey girls, let's have some fun. The others laughed, slapping the table. Win and marry us all. One teased, throwing back her whiskey. The bar roared at the joke. The man didn't flinch. He just walked to the counter, ordered a soda of all things, and slid onto a stool. A hush rippled. In this place, soda was louder than a shout. The queens rose, circling him like cats with a mouse. One put her hand on his shoulder. Too good for a drink, handsome? He finally turned. Calm, kind, almost tired. No, ma'am, he said softly. I just don't drink anymore. That answer should have gotten him heckled. But then he reached for his glass and the cuff of his sleeve slid up, just enough to reveal a tattoo. The laughter died. The jukebox crackled. Someone coughed. The air shifted, heavy and sharp, as if the letters themselves had sucked the oxygen out of the room. The tallest queen's smile faltered. You served? He nodded once. No dramatics, no speeches, just a nod. For the first time in years, that corner booth went silent. The man looked down into his soda. Not all of us came back, he said quietly. I keep them with me. That's why I don't drink. Can't afford to forget. And just like that, the game was over. The women, these queens who feared nothing on the open road, were suddenly stripped of their armor. They weren't just bikers anymore. They were daughters, sisters, mothers. One of them had lost a cousin in Afghanistan. Another's father still woke up screaming from Vietnam. They knew the weight of absence. They knew the sound of a name carved into stone. The tallest queen sat down beside him, voice softer than the smoke above their heads. You're not alone here. Not tonight. What happened next was not what anyone expected. Instead of challenges, they offered chairs. Instead of laughter at his expense, they poured stories out, raw, messy, human. About family, about nights waiting for calls that never came, about pride that hurt as much as it healed. And for the first time in years, that man talked. Really talked. He told them about his friend Eddie, who used to joke about marrying all the girls when they made it home. Eddie never did. The tattoo was for him, for all of them. The queens listened, no interruptions, no jokes, just listening, the rarest kind of respect. By the time the clock struck midnight, the bar felt different. Softer, warmer. The man stood, ready to leave. But before he could, the tallest queen raised her glass. To Eddie, she said, voice steady. To Eddie. The others echoed, glasses clinking. Even the bartender raised his bottle of beer. The man's eyes glistened, but he smiled. For the first time in a long while, he smiled like the weight wasn't only his to carry. As he walked out, the queens didn't catcall or laugh. They just watched him go, each one silently changed. And from that night forward, their joke, win and marry us all, was retired. Because they'd learned that sometimes the bravest win isn't in the games, the dares, or the fists slammed onto tabletops. Sometimes it's in choosing kindness over cruelty. Sometimes it's in recognizing the scars you can't see. The bar kept its grit, its smoke, and its rowdy laughter. But there was also a plaque on the wall a week later, small, hand-carved and placed right above the jukebox. It read simply, to Eddie, and to all who never made it home. You're not forgotten. And if you walked in on the right night, you might still see those queens raising a glass, not in mockery, but in memory. Because compassion has a way of turning even the toughest hearts into something unshakably human. The plaque above the jukebox became more than decoration. It became a promise. People noticed it. Some ignored it, sure, but most stopped, read it, and felt something stir. Truckers passing through laid down a dollar bill beneath it before heading back to the highway. Bikers who once scoffed at sentimental junk found themselves nodding respectfully as the jukebox kicked up an old tune. Even hardened regulars started bringing stories of their own. Uncles, friends, brothers, sisters, names carried like ghosts on their shoulders. It wasn't just a bar anymore. It was a place where memory lived. And then one night, weeks later, the man returned. Same denim jacket, same quiet eyes. But this time, when he pushed open the door, the queens rose, not to mock, not to test, but to welcome. "You came back," the tallest one said. "Didn't think I would," he admitted, sliding onto the same stool. "But something told me I wasn't finished here." The bartender pointed to the plaque. "You started something, brother. Thought you should know." The man's face softened, but then he reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small folded flag, worn edges frayed. He set it gently on the counter. "This was Eddie's. Been carrying it for too long. I think maybe—" He hesitated, swallowing hard. "Maybe it belongs here now." The bar went silent. No clinks of glasses, no jukebox hum. Just silence, sacred and heavy. The queens exchanged glances. Then one of them stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then it stays, right here, with us." So they framed the flag beneath the plaque. And that night, instead of rowdy music, the jukebox played something softer. A ballad about home, about waiting, about love. The whole bar sang, voices cracking, some crying, but all together. Even the man, especially the man. For the first time since he lost Eddie, he wasn't carrying the memory alone. They were still fierce, still wild on their bikes, tearing through highways with leather jackets and engines that could wake the dead. But they carried a new reputation too, protectors of memory, guardians of stories. If you walked into that bar today and tried the old line, "Win and marry us all," they'd laugh, sure. But then they'd point to the plaque, to the flag, and they'd tell you about Eddie, about the man who drank soda, about the night laughter turned to reverence. And you'd leave knowing something you didn't when you came in, that the toughest people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who carry the broken pieces of others too, and still keep writing.